Hello, it's Father Rich coming to you for our next segment on how the church changed the Catholic world, a series of essays published in Magnificat and now in 2-volume books. Today's essay is entitled Whatsoever You Do. And I'm standing here before a statue of Blessed Solanus Casey. He's one of only soon, now when Father Michael McGivney gets beatified in October 31st this year, he'll be the fourth American citizen male to be beatified as blessed. And the other two right now, in addition to Solanus Casey, are martyrs that went down to Latin America and were killed back in the 80s as they tried to help, inspired by Christ, to help people in need down there. So he's the only one not to be martyred. And he's from Detroit, and I'm not going to get into his whole life, but this was a statue actually that we brought down to keep in Mom's hospital room back when she was hospitalized last fall for about 3 weeks. And one of the things we kind of noted and joked about was the lack of, aesthetics in the hospital room, and wanting to kind of give it a little life. And it's an interesting challenge we see in a lot of our hospitals, and certainly here in Erie, Pennsylvania, with St. Vincent's moving now to Allegheny Health Network, is the kind of moving away from the religious and spiritual ties of the hospitals. And today's essay really talks about the reality of this incredible impact. You could argue one of the biggest impacts that our church has had on the world is bringing hospitals and the active care for the sick into a prominent place into culture. The essay starts with the curing of the centurion man's servant. And they mention that this was a man, the centurion, who had a lot of money. Remember, he had built a synagogue for the Jewish people. And that's why the Jews kind of interceded for him to Jesus, saying, he's been very good to us. So the suggestion is this man had enough wealth to get any help that he could for his servant. But yet he comes to Jesus. And you'd say, well, why didn't he take him to the hospital? Because, of course, there were none. And that would certainly be a big reason why Jesus did a lot of physical healing, because there wasn't really appropriate or any existence of care. They might have had spas or medicinal resorts, so to speak, that were set up a lot of times around the hot springs. You think of Bath, England was founded as a hot spring in the Roman Empire. But there wasn't this systematic approach to healthcare that we see, certainly in this day. And so they mentioned that the main reason, because the sick were considered outcasts. They weren't recognized to have dignity. In fact, many religions, including the Jewish religion, there was some belief that their physical malady was an indication of their spiritual malady and their uncleanness. And they would be separated from the community instead of brought in and tried to be healed and cured and loved and supported. So really, the movement to build hospitals would coincide with when Christianity became legal. Remember, in the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, Constantine legalizes Christianity after 250 years of persecution by the Roman Empire. And the first thing he committed to was building basilicas and churches, places of worship. But the second thing was building hospitals. They soon followed. And then over the years, and especially in the Middle Ages, you saw actually religious orders founded to care for the sick. And so, they talk about several places. I know St. Basil in Cappadocia specifically made a big commitment in the city of Caesarea to build what they eventually would call a new town. It was so extensive in their effort to set up places to care for people, old and young, to even create housing for doctors and nurses to care for those people, and really seeing the level of extent that they would commit to. The other thing they mentioned here, going back to my point of the statue, was that because the essay kind of talks about how our picture of middle age hospitals might be of these dank, dark, dim, really horrible places to live. But they talk about how they really tried to bring dignity to them. They talked about several hospitals specifically that actually major artists of the day were hired to paint frescoes in, to allow the people there, the patients, to have spiritual things to, occupy their mind and their soul, and not just in these whitewashed rooms that we're used to seeing now. And certainly, the religious hospitals did that modernly too, in addition to the secular. Talking about this recognition of bringing dignity, and that we can't just care for the body, but we also have to care for the soul. And how can we best take care of the whole human person and not just try to provide for their physical needs? And obviously, in an age of secularism and moving away from the spiritual, that's going to be less of an impact and an emphasis. So that's something our church can continue to bring that to our culture, hopefully, and to our medical professions, to realize it is about taking care of body and soul and not just about body. And when we're well taken care of in soul, the impact that can have on our physical health. So this is a huge way that the church certainly responding to Jesus is mandate, whatever you do for the least of my brethren, you do for me. To basically this Christian call to see the face of Christ in those who are sick, and certainly marginalized, those who are in the greatest need. That's been a huge part of our Christian mission and commitment throughout our history, and I think one that we need to find new creative ways. Now that we're not running the hospitals and providing the ways we have in the past, how can we renew our commitment to caring for the sick and those who are physically vulnerable? But certainly to see the impact that our church has had over history and how we've provided for the sick and started the concept of hospitals, and how our religious men and women, especially the nuns, were the ones known to care for the sick. We're so grateful for that legacy, and hopefully we remember that this level of care for the sick is rooted in that Christian value of not segregating the sick, but caring for them, helping them heal, loving Christ in them, and how we've benefited from that as a human family. So we thank God for that. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day, and God bless.